and welcome to my YouTube channel, Reading Little Blue Books Out Loud. This is a Little Blue book. It just happens to be Little Blue book number 1814, and it is titled How to Choose a Mate Scientifically, written by John H. Burma, PhD, and it is copywritten 1943. Yep, 1943. Now, John H. Burma, PhD, is Chairman, Department of Sociology, Grinnell College, Grinnell, Iowa. So let's begin. How to Choose a Mate Scientifically, copyright 1943. In 1941, 1 in 4 marriages ended either in divorce, desertion, or legal separation. Presumably, all these marriages were unhappy. To them should be added all the unhappy marriages whose participants belong to some religious group whose tenets do not permit the dissolution of the marriage bond. Those who are prevented from seeking a divorce due to the social pressures exerted by friends, relatives, or the community. Thus, a conservative estimate would place the number of unhappy marriages at about 1 in 3 at the very least. In our culture, marriages are contracted on the basis of individual choice, not parental selection, and love and romance are generally recognized as being the chief criteria used in choosing a mate. We, as a nation, look down on marriages which are loveless. Yet there is overwhelming proof that love and romance are insufficient basis for a happy marriage. So frequently has American youth seen the fallacy of the saying that love conquers all, that young people are increasingly interested in how to choose a mate wisely and how to prepare for a successful marital career. There is hardly a college or university of recognized rank today which does not offer its young people some assistance in preparing for marriage. In some cases, this consists of a series of lectures or a short, non-credited course. But increasingly, classes carrying full college credit are offered and well attended. For several decades, certain persons have recognized the need for marital guidance and for proper choice of a life mate, and a considerable amount of guidance was offered. Unfortunately, this guidance was of hit-or-miss type, based almost entirely on the experiences and opinions of the counselor, and had to be accepted on faith rather than on concrete evidence. In the last decade or two, there has been an increasing effort to gather a scientific body of evidence on the basis of which legitimate and scientific conclusions and generalizations could be drawn. It is with these conclusions and generalizations which we will be concerned. One of the significant findings which has grown out of these studies has been a knowledge of assortive mating, i.e., the tendency of likes to mate with likes. There has long been observed a tendency of opposites to attract, but what had not been satisfactorily recorded was that this attraction usually stopped short of marriage, and that this conclusion was based on noticeability rather than statistics. For example, the very tall boy with the very short girl stand out in any group, and as far as noticeability is concerned, usually overshadow the dozen other couples who are more evenly assorted. For such factors as build, vitality, good looks, education, intellectual rank, alertness, seriousness, moral attitudes, overt affection, introversion or extroversion, humor, religious faith, and social, turning of the page, and social position, there is considerably greater similarity than dissimilarity to be observed in most married or engaged couples. For the particular factors named, this tendency for like to marry like would seem to be a wholesome trend from the point of view of marital adjustment. In the case of certain other factors, later to be discussed, it may be better for traits to be complementary or opposite rather than identical. In all societies, there is also what is technically known as preferential mating. This means that there are certain characteristics which are more sought after by the average person in choosing a mate than other characteristics are. A number of college students enlisting what young men sought in a woman, the basis for preferential mating, thought the most important traits were good looks, good personality, intelligence, same interests, understanding, good family, good background, health, social adaptability, education, moderately high morals, good disposition, neatness, and considerateness. They thought young women wanted in a man intelligence, good background, attractiveness, same interest, personality, sense of humor, health, high morals, and good economic prospects. Such lists are fairly representative of the traits which young people desire in mates. The fact that not all persons have a plethora of the above qualities, which are particularly preferred characteristics, does not prohibit them from finding a suitable mate and being happy. However, it does mean that persons obviously embodying these qualities have many chances to choose a mate and have a wide variety of choices. Those less spectacularly endowed have fewer chances and a narrower range of choice. Only a small percentage of persons who desire to marry fail to do so. We do not know the exact percentage, but we do know that about 90% of all persons eventually marry, and that a sizable part of the remaining 10% do not desire to marry or are definitely unfit for marriage. There are, then, relatively few normal persons who may not expect to marry. Only one's number of chances and variety of choice are related to one's possession of preferred characteristics. In one way, a discussion of preferred characteristics is misleading. Facts which are true for a group as a whole need not be valid in their entirety for each member of the group. For one individual, for example, good looks and personality may so far outweigh good family and high morals that the latter two are entirely unnecessary. This is a particularly significant observation, for it means that individual mates should be, and are, chosen on the basis of an individual modification of the characteristics approved by the group. One general conclusion, then, in the thesis of this article, is that there are certain characteristics which are particularly desirable in a mate. This desirability seems to be definitely proven by surveys and tests, and individual variations in the pattern usually will not affect the validity of the generalizations. For example, good family background may mean one thing to one person and something else to another. If one's prospective mate has a good family background according to one's own point of view, that is all that is necessary. This is valid for a considerable number of factors. It is of considerable interest and of some practical value to attempt to determine as accurately as possible which ones, if any, of one's opposite sex friends have the qualities which for you would seem to indicate a good chance of marital happiness. No discussion of the choice of a marital partner could be adequate without some definite statements concerning the significance of romantic love. As a general thing in America today, the one primary criticism of marital choice is love. Probably this represents a return swing of the pendulum from the arranged and loveless marriages of many of our forefathers. In any event, it is a factor of paramount importance in choosing a mate today. That this modern sine qua non for marriage is not in itself sufficient is adequately proven by the shocking number of marital failures from which we suffer. Some students of marriage and the family, comparing present divorce rates with those of the days when marriages were arranged, have reached the conclusion that romantic love is more of a hindrance than it is an aid to marital happiness, and thus might well be placed in the discard. More careful students take a somewhat different view in choosing a mate. Romantic love probably is a handicap, for it has a tendency to obscure the total view and to infuse undue optimism into serious considerations. Love is not blind, but it seems particularly susceptible to visual disorders and blind spots. On the other hand, a feeling of deep and wholehearted affection is of enormous benefit in smoothing over and minimizing the rough spots which occur in the very happiest of marriages. It is probably unfortunate that persons contemplating matrimony cannot make a wise, serious, scientific choice of a mate, and then afterwards fall in love. Since this is an uncommon procedure, the next best solution is to explain convincingly the factors which do and do not make for a happy marriage, and get these factors so thoroughly understood that young people will unconsciously rule out all the most unsatisfactory choices which they might otherwise make. It is on this educative concept that most college courses on marriage are based, and it is the purpose of this work to point out some of the facts which have been scientifically discovered by authorities in the field of marital happiness. Lest a knowledge of these facts influence the reader unduly in using the test which follows, the test will be presented first and the discussion later. In order that the reader may make some actual comparisons of various persons as possible marital partners, whose choice might be expected to lead to a happy marriage, a rather comprehensive test is presented below. This test is based on the findings of numerous authorities who have studied both happy and unhappy couples. In these studies, it was found that certain factors appeared more commonly for the happy or very happy groups, and less frequently for the unhappy or less happy groups. Some of these test questions relate to actual causes, some relate to symptoms, and some relate to factors which are concomitant, i.e. frequently found together but having no causal relationship. Since not all factors have equal weight, various questions also are given unequal weight in prediction. No matter how scientifically such a test is constructed, it is open to at least one danger. Persons taking it may give inaccurate answers. These inaccuracies may in some cases be due to lack of information, but more frequently they are due to bias on the part of the person answering the questions. Some traits are so obviously related to any sort of successful social adjustment that the correct answer can easily be guessed. There is therefore a tendency to rate a loved one ever higher than is really correct because one wants to make as high a score as possible. The only way to overcome this objection would be to have several other persons well acquainted with the couple to give the answers. Second, prediction can be on a dogmatic basis but only on the odds. That is, it might be found that red-haired persons were unhappily married in 9 out of 10 cases. The odds would then be 10 to 1 against the trait of red-headedness, and the question and answer scored on that basis. Yet how could you know you were not the 10th and successful one? After all, long shots, once in a while, do win races. There is no solution to this problem except the common sense one that urges caution in increasing doses as the odds increase. It is suggested that answers and weights following the test may be consulted until after the various persons to be rated have all been tested and the answers elsewhere recorded. This will to some extent prevent unconscious bias, which might otherwise intrude. In answering the questions, if the answer is both yes and no, but more yes than no, mark the yes, and vice versa. Check the question only in cases where you do not have the information desired or when for some other reason it is impossible for you to make a decision. Obviously, the question mark is often significant, so this answer is also frequently weighted as much as either yes or no. All questions must be marked in some way. It is not necessary for a girl to answer the about the girl questions or for each different boy, but all other questions should be entirely redone for each new person. It will be interesting for both interested parties to each take the test and to later compare the scores, but they should by no means take the test together. and it would be best to do no more than compare final scores on each major section. Okay, so here's the test. And it starts with about you both. 1. Are you the same nationality? Yes, no, or question mark. 2. Is he between 2 and 5 years older than she? Yes, no, or question mark. 3. Did you meet in college? 4. Are you both in good health? 5. Are you on the same intellectual level? 6. Have you known each other 2 or 3 years? 7. Was the period of courtship less than a year? 8. Will you be engaged 6 months or longer before marriage? 9. Do all 4 parents agree on the match? 10. Did you both come from a city of 200,000 or more? 11. Do you both desire children? 12. Did you meet first either at a commercial amusement place or as a pickup? 13. Are you both Protestants or both Catholics, etc.? 14. Do you both have the same attitudes as to the number and timing of children? 15. Is either partner more jealous than the average? 16. Do both of you try to avoid arguments? 17. When you are with him or her, does the world seem more vivid and interesting than when you are with anyone else? 18. If a boy, do you have an impulse to protect her? Or if a girl, do you have an impulse to care for him? 19. Do you feel a sense of unrest and dissatisfaction when separated for any length of time? 20. Do you measure things by him or her, or question if they would measure up and be approved by him or her? 21. Does it make you angry to hear him or her criticized? No. About the boy, and this is new questions. Is he closely attached to his mother? Question 1. 2. Was his parents' marriage a more than commonly happy one? 3. Will he be married before he is 21? 4. Does he have a college degree? 5. Did he attend Sunday school regularly between 10 and 19 years of age? 6. Does he go to church twice a month or more? 7. Does he belong to several organizations? 8. Does he have very few friends of the opposite sex? 9. Is he an only child? 10. Does he have any conflict with his father? 11. Does he make adjustments easily? 12. Does he have a tendency toward introversion? 13. Does he prefer a play to a dance? 14. Is he considered indifferent to the opposite sex? 15. Does he have a great many friends of the opposite sex? 16. Is he easily discouraged when opinions differ from his own? 17. Does he accept just criticism without being sore? 18. Does he ever cross the street to avoid meeting someone? 19. Does he handle his income wisely? 20. Is he mature? 21. Is he nervous or impatient? 22. Is he quick-tempered? 23. Is he frequently untruthful? 24. Has he any annoying habits? 25. Has he a tendency to be selfish and inconsiderate? 26. Does he complain too much? 27. Is he affectionate? 28. Is he ambitious? 29. Is he narrow-minded? 30. Does he try to get his own way even if he has to fight for it? 31. Is he touchy? 32. Does he frequently feel grouchy? 33. Does he expect to make his living in a profession or managing a business? 34. Is his work record irregular? 35. Does he usually avoid asking advice? 36. If he came late to a meeting, would he rather stand than take a front seat? 37. Is he considered to be critical of other people? 38. Does discipline make him discounted? 39. Is he careful to avoid hurting anyone's feelings? 40. Does he tend to dominate the opposite sex? 41. Is he an opposite type from her father? 42. Was his childhood of average happiness or better? 43. Was his home discipline firm but not harsh? 44. Did he have little or no religious training in his home? 45. Was his sex instruction very meager or entirely lacking? 46. At high school age, did he very frequently indulge in petting? 47. Is he rather closely attached to his father? 48. Would he prefer an elopement to being engaged? 49. Would he make a better than average father? And 50. Would he rather be a criminal lawyer than a laboratory technician? And now we have questions about the girl. And let's see, how many questions is this? Because I don't know if I want to read all these damn questions. Yeah, there is 50 questions of them. And I think we'll skip right by that. And then there's do agree questions, and there's 12 of them. And it's just, do you agree about, let's see, do you agree on matters of affection? Seldom. About half, much. Do you agree on choice of friends? Seldom, about half, or much. Do you agree on philosophy of life? Seldom, about half, or much. And those are the answers you can choose between these questions. Do you agree on matters of conventionality? Do you agree on leisure time preferences? Do you agree in dealing with in-laws? Do you agree in outside interests together? Are your family backgrounds similar? Do you agree on your liking to argue? Do you agree on your handling of money? Do you agree on the matter of the wife working after marriage and what is to be done with the money she earns? Do you agree that marriage is a 50-50 proposition? Notice it's, and what is to be done with the money that she earns? Nothing asked about what's to be done with the money that he earns. Okay, so we're going to skip all that, and we're going to go to the conclusion here on page 17. To grade this test, use a separate sheet of paper, thank God, and record all the plus points and minus points which correspond to the answers you have checked. Add each and subtract the minus totals from the plus total. The result is your happiness prediction score. It is possible to score 241 points on the test, but no one is expected to make such a high score. In fact, any score above 235 possibly should be discarded entirely. For while it is perfectly possible to make such a score, the very excellence of the score is likely to indicate that bias has entered to a considerable degree, and that the person taking the test has not been strictly accurate. If an outsider arrives at approximately the same score, however, as the parties concerned, then the go-ahead signal is clearly indicated. A score which is free from bias and which ranges from 194 to 235 is indicative of an excellent chance of marital happiness. Unless there is some negative factor of disproportionate importance to this particular couple, such a score indicates that not only that such a marriage has excellent chances of being successful, but also that the parties concerned are ready for a marriage as soon as they wish. Scores from 123 to 193 are in the middle grouping. In these cases, the odds are still in favor of a happy marriage, at least as happy as the average. Those scores near the lower limit, however, indicate that there are problems of sufficient proportions that some trouble is sure to arise. Presumably, this would not be sufficient to prevent a successful marriage. However, it indicates a need of caution rather than alarm. Scores between 60 and 122 indicate that the odds are somewhat against the marriage being happy. Couples whose scores are in this range need to at least stop and rethink the situation in all its aspects. As a generalization, these couples are not ready for marriage, either because of their own differences or because of the particular situation at that time. Such couples, if engaged, should continue their engagement for a more or less indefinite period in order to ascertain whether or not the situation is likely to improve appreciably. If the couple is not engaged and are more or less shopping around, the answer is sufficiently negative to indicate that they have not yet found a suitable mate, and the search should by all means be continued. In case the score range much below 60, the indications are that the marriage could hope for nothing better than below average happiness at best, and extreme unhappiness at the worst. Couples with these low scores do marry, but they are cheating themselves and their children and certainly will not get as much out of the marriage and life in general as the average person. In fact, the chances for unhappiness are so strong that as a generalization, these couples should not ever consider marriage to each other. The arrangement of the items in this test is such that it also serves as a partial criterion for the readiness of the couple to marry. Thus, a relatively low score may well be indicative of a discrepancy in the time element. That is, a couple 16 or 17 years of age would be quite likely to make an unsatisfactory score on the test. Such a couple 5 years later might well make a satisfactory score. What is indicated is that the couple at present have poor chances for marital happiness. On the other hand, a couple already around 25 years of age may not expect the coming years to add to their score any more than it might detract. It is again suggested that the scores below not be read until all testing has been completed. And then it gives a table of scores. And we'll just go through that. As one may observe by the above test and the weighting of the answers to it, there are certain factors which play an important role in marital happiness. There are certain matters on which no good or bad judgment need be made. The significant point is to whether or not the couple both react to these matters in the same way. Good examples are such things as recreation, hobbies, and religion. For example, it does not matter whether the couple is Protestant, Catholic, or Jewish. What does matter is that they agree, i.e. both be Protestant, both Catholic, or both Jewish. The same is true in regard to choice of friends, demonstrations of affection, family, backgrounds, and other items. There are certain traits or characteristics which are such that they make it more difficult for their possessor to adjust to any social situation, whether it be marriage or anything else. If by chance both persons have these traits, it will be doubly difficult for a satisfactory adjustment to take place. Certain other traits and characteristics have an opposite effect. Negative characteristics of this type include such things as jealousy, nervousness, ill health, introversion, being spoiled, untruthfulness, quick temper, immaturity, narrow-mindedness, selfishness, lack of dependability, being grouchy or touchy, conceitedness, and others. Positive traits of this type include such things as neatness, intelligence, even temper, ambition, extroversion, dependability, truthfulness, interest in religion, maturity, emotional stability, altruism, affection, tolerance, etc. Modern young people increasingly seem to expect their marital partners to furnish real companionship and comradeship. Comradeship. This is significant, for it means that each expects the other to share his enjoyments, pleasures, and interests. Thus, it is important that the couple who expect their marriage to include real comradeship should have many interests in common. Obviously, 100% matching of interest in a man and a woman is not only impossible but undesirable. But such fundamental matters as mutual interest in certain recreations, considerable agreements in choice of friends, interest in or sympathetic respect for each other's hobbies, and general agreement on either stay-at-home types of entertainment or going out types of entertainment. If they do not agree in their general philosophy of life, true comradeship cannot be attained. A great many books and articles have been written concerning the significance of sexual response in marriage. And I think we'll stop there for the first part of Little Blue Book number 1814, How to Choose a Mate Scientifically, written by John H. Burma, Ph.D., copyright 1943. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in part